Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so we continue with the third person who had a less than desirable record, Emmanuel Augustus, also known as Emmanuel Burton. And as you can see, he had 38 wins, 34 losses, 6 draws. His career spanned from 1994 all the way up to 2011. So we're going to get into it right now. Now, Emmanuel Burton, the first guy he faced that was a notable name, or at least became a notable name, was Jesus Chavez. At the time, Chavez was 5-1, and Emmanuel Burton, at the time when he faced Chavez, was 6-2-1. So two upcoming prospects met each other and they fought each other, which is reasonable. And later on, he faced Ivan Robinson. Now, the interesting thing about this one is Ivan Robinson was well into his career. If you look at Ivan Robinson's record, he was 22-0, undefeated fighter at the time. And when he faced Emmanuel Augustus only had 8 fights, 5 losses. I'm sorry, he didn't have 8 fights. He had 8 wins, 5 losses, 2 draws, 15 fights in all. So actually, it was a much more experienced fighter that Emmanuel Augustus faced. And 2, at the time, he was beginning to build up a journeyman status. All right. Now, why did he get the shot at Ivan Robinson? And what happened after he got that shot at Ivan Robinson? Well, if you look here, Ivan Robinson, after facing Emmanuel Augustus, he then went on to face Philip Holliday for the IBF World Lightweight title, which is very interesting. Now, of course, he did not defend his USBA Lightweight title against Emmanuel Augustus either, which is also very interesting. That's because I guess Emmanuel Augustus's record wasn't enough, and it wasn't deserved of a defense of the USBA lightweight title. It could also have been that they were also overweight, so that could have been it. Now, when we move on, we see that Emmanuel Augustus faced Diosbelis Hurtado. And Diosbelis Hurtado was a very skilled Cuban boxer who later on became, I do believe, the junior welterweight champion of the world, super lightweight champion of the world. Now, he lost to guys like Costa Zoo, drew with Ricardo Mayorga. He won the IBA Intercontinental and the IBA super lightweight title. But he also won the WBA super lightweight title here against Randall Bailey. Now, this guy, he faced Emmanuel Augustus, or Emmanuel Burton, a little earlier on in his career. At the time, he was 21-1. So, again, a well-established boxer facing this guy. And you're wondering, why is this guy, Emmanuel Augustus, getting shots at these guys? He's 11-8-3. Why not somebody with more experience or better opponent, like a guy like Aaron Zaret or a guy like Jaime Balboa? Why is it this guy that was facing all these contenders, right? This fight was at super lightweight. He would go on to face another very good opponent in John Molina, right? John Molina had 56 fights under his belt when he faced Emmanuel Burton. Emmanuel Burton, on the other hand, he had what? 21-15-4. That would be 21-19. So he had 50 fights under his belt, right? Or 40 fights under his belt. But as you can see, journeyman status. Why was Emmanuel Augustus fighting this guy? Ben Taki was a better opponent, you know. And this is, of course, at the end of John Molina's career, but you can see it set him up to fight Juan Lascanzo for the WBF lightweight title. So it's very interesting at the WBA. So it's very interesting that this guy seems to be always coming before some big title shot. But why? And why was it that fighters kept on facing him? Then we had Floyd Mayweather. Again, he's 23 fights into his career. It's not like this guy is a prospect or something. But look at this. Floyd Mayweather. He's facing a guy 22-16-4. Why is he facing that guy? He just defended his title against Gregorio Vargas, Carlos Jarena, Justin Juku, Carlos Alberto Ramon Rios, even Angel Manfredi. Why is he taking a non-title fight against Emmanuel Augustus? Again, he comes in overweight here. Why is this guy getting a shot out of everybody else? He goes on to face Mickey Ward. And this is at super lightweight, obviously. He faces Mickey Ward. And you see him here. He's 24-17-4. Whereas Mickey Ward, he's 36-10-0. Okay? So, a journeyman facing a reasonably good fighter. The thing about this is that Mickey Ward has been facing guys who are not journeymen, and this is the first journeyman he's facing in the mix. Why is Emmanuel Augustus picked to fight Mickey Ward? Why is Mickey Ward fighting Emmanuel Augustus? That's the question you always keep on asking yourself. Not only does he fight Mickey Ward, who, of course, we know he fought Arturo Gatti in those great fights. He fights a guy called Levander Johnson. All of these guys I'm speaking about, except for probably Mickey Ward, they become world champions. And Levander Johnson faces him here. Again, Augustus' total journeyman status, almost bum status, 26-19-4, whereas Levander Johnson is 31-3-1. And you must remember, Evander Johnson, he became the IBF lightweight champion, beating a guy called Stefano Zoff. Okay? And not too far away, he gets to fight Julian Wheeler for the USBA lightweight title, then Javier Haragui for a title shot, which he loses. The important thing is, Emmanuel Augustus seems to be a pivotal guy. He's almost like a gatekeeper to all these fighters. Let's keep it going. If that's not enough, he also faced David Diaz. Okay? This guy faced David Diaz, who would later on be a lightweight champion of the world. And David Diaz, if I can just find him here. There he is. David Diaz fights him at 139. It's not a title shot. He's 22-0. David Diaz, Olympian, etc. And Emmanuel Augustus again, 27-22-5. Big journeyman, right? Why is David Diaz fighting Emmanuel Augustus? And here's the interesting thing. After David Diaz fights Emmanuel Augustus, and he goes on to fight a number of other guys, he loses to Kendall Holt. Later on, he becomes the IBA lightweight champion. He defends that a number of times, and then he later on becomes the WBC World Lightweight Champion, beating Eric Morales. The last guy I have here that Emmanuel Augustus faces is Ruslan Provodnikov. He faces Ruslan Provodnikov at super lightweight. He's knocked out by him in the 9th round. And Ruslan, after he faces Emmanuel Augustus, who's 38-31-6, whereas Ruslan is 15-0, who's an upcoming prospect. This guy goes on after that to fight Mauricio Herrera. He loses to him, but then he beats DeMarcus Corley. Fights Timothy Bradley, and then beats Mike Alvarado to become the WBO super lightweight champion of the world. Okay? So, why does a guy like Emmanuel Augustus with a journeyman's record, why does he end up fighting so many future champions and so many great fighters in his career? Why does he manage, how does he get those opportunities? One, and two, how does he manage to, with that kind of record, fight those fighters, and those fighters later on go on to be greater fighters? Well, that's my question to you. Of course, it's obvious Emmanuel Augustus had certain skill sets in his tank, and it was only much later on in his career he started to get really floored and knocked out flush. But for those who know Emmanuel Augustus, and all you have to do is go watch his footage, he was called the Drunken Master for a reason. He was able to roll punches and move out the way of punches quite well, slip and roll punches quite well. And that was a skill he had, and he could counter reasonably well. And so as a result of that, Emmanuel Augustus was one of those great fighters. Still, I ask you, why would Emmanuel Augustus be a guy who would get so many shots at so many great fighters, not only early in their career, but in the middle of their careers, sometimes in their primes, over other fighters with better records and with better accomplishments? So if you can answer that question, please leave your comments in the comment section below. You guys have a great one.